This video is brought to you by guidedpracticeroutines.com, the place to access my full library of lessons, courses, transcriptions, and guided practice routines. With my unique teach then practice format, we practice together and progress faster. Check it out at the link in the description. Hi everybody, Levi Clay here, and it has been a while since we've had a conversation like this, but I felt the need to make a video because over the years I've received a fair few amount of comments on my transcription videos asking, or to be honest, being quite snobby about the fact that I don't include notation on the videos. And it got me thinking. I was having a discussion with some of my members over on my Discord channel just today about the differences between tablature and notation, and I thought it would be very interesting for me to make a video explaining why I've made that choice with my videos and my overall thoughts on the differences between tablature and notation. Now, I'll be completely honest with you. The reason I don't include notation in the videos that I make on YouTube is purely aesthetic. Purely aesthetic. The space that is taken up by the tablature on screen is already a lot of real estate on the screen. When you start adding notation into that, you end up, one of two things has to happen. You either see less of the video that you're watching, less of the actual artist in the performance, or you have to shrink the artist video down so you can make room for that tablature and notation. I just personally find that it takes up too much space, and I don't appreciate the overall end aesthetic. I don't think that it makes for as compelling a visual tool. It's worth noting that both notation and tablature in the context of my transcription videos is merely a visual aid. I don't think anybody, if I put notation on these videos, would be like, oh great, I can sight read this now, because that's not the point of those videos. They are it's giving you an indication of the complexity of the music that's going on. And to be honest, it's showcasing how good I am at what I do. I'm a professional transcriber, so I transcribe some very difficult pieces of music, and giving you a visual aid of that showcases the complexity of the music, but also the accuracy with which I do my job. So that's the only reason I don't have notation in the videos. If you have been a member on my Patreon page over the years and have downloaded any of my YouTube transcriptions as guitar profiles or PDFs, you'll know that you have access to all of the notation. If you're a member of guidedpracticeroutines.com, which is link in the description, my website, my teaching website, you will find on there all of my YouTube transcriptions are downloadable on there. Again, guitar profiles, they all come with notation. I should stress this. I am a reader. I read notation. I learned to read notation many years ago when I was much younger than I am now. And as a skill, it is something that I lean on very lightly in my professional career. It's I don't think I've ever been paid to read anything, but my reading, I was going to say is good, but we should probably go with was good, because it's probably much rustier than it was when I graduated from music school now. So I'm not anti-notation. Let me be really clear about that. In fact, when it comes to notation, I'm a stickler for detail. Anybody that has watched me doing live transcriptions on YouTube, you may notice things like me changing the enharmonics in the notation, me adjusting the angle or the orientation of grace notes so things are visually more appealing, grouping eighth notes as groups of 4 rather than groups of 2, again, so they're visually more appealing. And I do that even knowing that when I'm done with the transcription, I'm going to hide the notation. But I do that because it looks right to my eyes as somebody who reads. So be very, very clear. I am not anti-notation. But I also need to be very anti-notation, because generally speaking, when somebody comes into the comment section and says to me, this video is useless without the notation, what you're really saying there is you don't understand tablature, like you're unable to use tablature, or B, you think that you're above tablature. And I think that that's a really bad attitude to take, and I'll tell you for why. Notation and tablature are functionally the same thing. When you really think about it, they are functionally identical. Notation doesn't mean anything. When you see a note in music, in notation, it doesn't mean a thing until you translate that thing to a meaning. So you have to learn how to interpret the symbols that you see when you're learning to read notation. Tablature is exactly the same. A number on a string doesn't mean, oh, no, wait, it does. It definitely means something. But there's still a degree of interpretation there. You still have to understand how to see the symbol, interpret what that thing means, and then apply that thing to your instrument. So notation and tablature, they are the same in that sense. Now, you might make the argument that, well, in notation, we don't have any question about rhythm with tablature. It doesn't show you the rhythm. Again, that would be a mistake, wouldn't it? Because when I publish my tablature, there's rhythmic notation underneath. So you're not missing any information whatsoever. And there are some inherent drawbacks for guitar players as readers of notation. I transcribe a lot of things that are in interesting open tunings. You might be a notation snob, but I promise you, you cannot read in open E. You cannot read in dadgad. All of the weird tunings that I've tackled over the years, like Pat Metheny's strange Nashville baritone tuning, you can't read in that. So it's not useful in all cases. It's really worth considering that. And of course, tablature predates notation. So you can't really be snobby about notation being the old-fashioned way of doing things, because tablature is more old-fashioned than notation. Ultimately, what it comes down to for me is a simple principle of opening up education for as many people as possible. Having your educational resources be as useful to as many people as possible. Not gating the community and saying you don't have the skills to enter here, therefore you're not welcome here. I believe in making my educational resources as accessible as possible to everybody. And that means dealing for the lowest common denominator, tablature. And that's okay, because I think it's a bad attitude to look down on somebody because they don't read. Because guess what, guys who are really, really good with notation, I can look down on you. When you say, if you need tablature to read, to learn this solo, then you shouldn't be learning this solo. I understand taking that position, but then I would say to you, if you need notation for this solo, then you probably shouldn't be learning this solo. You know, what's wrong with your ears? Why can't you work these things out by ear? Why would you need a transcription? You know, you're better than the tab readers, right? But you're not better than the ear players. It's bad logic. We shouldn't do it, and we shouldn't try and make people feel unwelcome in music. I think it's widely accepted that guitar players, by and large, aren't traditionally readers. Much smaller percentage of guitar players read music versus, say, somebody who plays the piano or somebody that plays the bassoon. Depending on your instrument, your need to read is going to change vastly, and guitar players don't need to read as much. So I would put a lot more emphasis on the idea that if you staunchly believe that reading tablature is a waste of your time, then you need to consider if reading notation is a waste of your time as well. You need to consider why you are pursuing music, which is a skill for the ears, where we create things for people's ears, but you're putting so much emphasis on your eyes in order to be able to do it. We are making video content here because, again, I'm trying to make the educational material that I make as accessible as possible. I want, when I'm teaching on guidedpracticeroutines.com, when you join us, and you should, link in the description, if you're going through my Triad Mastery course or the Learning the Notes course or the upcoming Learning to Read course, all of these courses, I don't stick to my guns and be stubborn and say, well, I'm not going to have any visual aids for any of these. I'm not going to show you my fretboard. There are times where hiding the fretboard is useful, and in the ear training course, the ear training mastery course on my site, there are times where I blur out the fretboard because I don't want you using your eyes. But ultimately, I'm making educational material, and educational material should be accessible to as many people as possible. So having good visuals is a good thing. Now, I get it. You could argue that having notation just opens up an additional level of accessibility. But I would, again, argue that if you can read notation, then I'm sure you can handle tab. And if you can read notation and you can't handle tab, then just go and get the transcriptions from my website or go and get them from my Patreon page. Because why not? You know, it's only going to take you a second, and obviously you don't have the skills to do it with your ears and you're relying on some sort of visual aid. But yeah, let's remember you're better than the guys who can only read tab. Just something to think about. Let's make music more accessible. Join me over at guidedpracticeroutines.com and be part of our incredible community of learners working on taking your playing to the next level. Because at guidedpracticeroutines.com, we don't just practice, we practice together to progress faster. Thank you so much for watching this video. Hit me up in the comment section below. Anything you have to say, disagreements, I'm happy to tell you that you're an asshole over there. Love you guys. Talk soon.